and I want to welcome you to our second annual South Jersey Men's Club Picnic. I'm Rich Moskowitz, past president. This is, Mike Perloff, president for life. Welcome. I want to say we had a whole big crew coming in this morning setting up. I want to appreciate everyone who came here early. Appreciate it. Shake your hands. And I'm going to hand it over to Mike right now.
Quite a turnout today. It's quite nice. And how lucky are we with the weather? Really. Good job. Good job. Good job. Thanks to the president, Phil, for arranging it. Oh, Don Weisenstein. Amen. Well, the South Jersey Men's Club is a rather unique group. We are group number 503 of the Federation of Jewish Men's Clubs, an international group. And we're part of the Middle Atlantic region. Now, one of the things about us is we are fortunate. We have people men from every synagogue, just about, plus quite a few people who are not affiliated. And because we have agreed over the last, 4 or 5 years to take in the senior men's club from the Jewish Community Center where we meet, we now also allow non-Jews to be members. Now, the Federation of Jewish Men's Clubs has a convention every 2 years. In 2009, which seems like yesterday for some of us, but it's a bit of a while. In 2009, they had the convention in California. Or in Philadelphia, they've had them in California, they've had them in Toronto, they've had them in Florida, all over the country. And they have awards for excellence. And we actually, our club, the one without a synagogue, has won more awards for excellence than any other club in the United States and Canada.
This is just one plaque. This is just one plaque of the few dozen that we have in my house right now that we're storing. Unfortunately, we don't have a place to hang them up, but that's what we have.
And the reason is something that Rich mentioned just a moment ago, all the people who helped. Now look, at this point, after 32 years, quite a few of the members are retired. Quite a few of the members were on boards of directors, had their companies, were supervisors. They volunteered, they wrote checks. And at some point they say, all right, I did my stuff for 30, 40, 50 years. Now it's somebody else's turn. So when everybody in the room's like that, you're in trouble if everybody says that, right? So consequently, we have a lot of guys doing a lot of actual manual things. For instance, when we would have our meetings, if a guy came in and all he did was fold napkins, that means somebody's doing 5 or 6 other things, doesn't have one more to do. There has never been burnout in our men's club. Every single men's club president that we've had in 32 years still comes to meetings. It's awesome. As far as meetings are concerned, during the pandemic, we actually had Zoom meetings. We had meetings every single month, and we'd have a large number of people who participated. And the good thing about it was some guys who have difficulty in distinguishing a computer from a refrigerator, you know what I mean, right? They got help so that they could watch these meetings. We would have meetings such as, we had a virtual live tour from Jerusalem where people could ask questions. We had an infectious disease physician, who happened to be my little girl. We had programs on anti-Semitism on campus, Jews of color, and tour of a car museum. Thank you for the tour of your museum.
Thank you.
Now, a few other things to mention would be that, I covered an awful lot already.
Yes, you did.
So, Richie, take it away.
Okay. Of course, many members have a history of being officers, executives, supervisors, and board members of at least one organization or business. We're a very, very active group, and we're proud of that. And we have a new committee. There's a new JCC Grandparents Committee. And Amy Kaplan, I want to say a few words, please.
Thank you, and I will be brief. There is a new committee at the JCC. It's a grandparenting committee. How many people here are grandparents? Then you're the right group for me to talk to. We have received a grant from an outside source, and we are starting the planning of this new initiative. Grandparenting isn't what it used to be. You don't just give them a Hershey bar and send them home. There are issues of children who live at a distance. There are gender identity issues, use of technology. There's all kinds of stuff. You know this. So we will be meeting to discuss how we can address all the various issues of grandparenting, and I would like your help. I have a sign-up sheet here. Our first meeting will be this Tuesday by Zoom, 7 p.m. If you have interest in this topic and would like to participate, please give me your name, your email, and your phone number. Even if you can't be on this Zoom meeting, we'll definitely keep you in mind for future meetings. We'll be bringing in very knowledgeable guest speakers, people with a lot of experience working with grandparenting issues. It will be very interesting and fruitful. So please, we can use your help. And thank you. Where should I do this?
Even on the table over here. South Jersey Men's Club, of course, is known for our community service, and it's a hands-on group, not just check writing. We do. And some of the other things we do, we have auxiliary activities. I want to do a shout-out for Don Weisenstein, who's not here today. He was the chair of this committee to get this all together. Give a big applause for Don. And coming up, we're going to have our fantasy football league again, which Don is the commissioner. And we are still looking for more team members. So if you're interested in joining, you can join yourself, grandkids, brothers and sisters, whatever. We can use more teams and make them more competitive and much more fun. Bob Greenberg and I have been members of the Fantasy Football League, and it's been a lot of fun. And we did win one year, by the way. So if you're interested, just email Don. Thank you. Also, I want to shout out to Art Korth. We've had an investment club, which I think has made, I dropped out a number of years ago, but has made money, I think, hasn't it? Yep, for a number of years. So very successful. We usually meet once a month following our men's club breakfast. So shout out to Art. And I also want to shout out to Dave Wynn right over here. The Jewish Athletic Group was a way to bring Jews together, and we were the start. We started the whole thing together with softball, and we went to volleyball and pinochle. World sports one year. It's amazing. And with Dave at the helm, it was very successful. And so I want to give a shout out to Dave for all the work that he's done through that. And of course, the South Jersey Men's Club, we volunteered during the COVID. We gave a big donation to the Jewish Federation Emergency Fund. Thank you, members there. We're still supporting the Holocaust Remembrance Day and the Yom HaShoah candle handout. It's been a little contracted the last few years because of COVID, but we still made our donations. We still handed out dozens and dozens of candles. And I got a quick story about South Jersey Men's Club and the Federation. I've been buying candles for many years, and the first year I bought candles, and it's a men's club thing from the Federation of Jewish Men's Club. And I make an order, and I get a call. Who are you? I'm South Jersey Men's Club. What does that mean? What shul do you belong to? I don't belong to a shul, because candles were coming to my office. They couldn't understand that. It took about a week of negotiating to make them understand we're a fully accredited member of the Federation of Jewish Men's Club. Now when I place an order, there's no questions, it comes in right away. And we've handed out over, 10,000 candles or more through the years. So it's an important part of what we do. The guys come over when we hand out. Usually at the service we have a couple dozen guys handing out candles. We never charge for the candles. We just take donations, and all the money that's donated goes to the Holocaust Education Committee. So there's no cost to the community for the candles. We cover it all. We also support the Jewish Family and Children's Service Food Bank Pantry. stocking shelves, assembling food bags, and non-contact deliveries to clients. Raise your hand if you've helped with the food bank. A lot of guys, as you can see. And along with the Jewish war veterans, we're flagging veterans' graves and replacing broken markers. We've done that. Dave Schwartz, we have Lionsgate lunches still going on. Where's Dave? There you go. Thank you. And a lot of stuff going on. Mike.
Something we've been doing since 1996 is a law enforcement appreciation breakfast. We had one last May, and there was approximately 200 people there. What kind of people? The majority were police chiefs from across South Jersey. The speaker was the superintendent of the state police, Pat Callahan. We have people who have had problems with anti-Semitism or attacks, and a simple phone call is so much easier when you can say, "Hey Chief, this is Mike, how you doing?" "Hey Mike, what's going on? I got a problem I want you to address." Having relations with the senior management of federal, state, county, and municipal law enforcement is very good for us. Very good. They look at it as more than just another minority group. So we had that, and every year we also have a tremendous number of guys, probably at least 15 or so, who will help set it up. How many people have been to and helped at the breakfast? Thank you. Without you, it's not possible. It's a lot of work.
I do want to mention one more thing too, and I got note. Of course, we have put together and we gave a fairly large donation to the Ukraine Relief Fund. Very important for our men's club. Thank you for that.
We also have, that's right, and we also have had trips. Like this is a thing we're doing here with the spouses, correct, and family members. We've also, one moment. We've done other things. For instance, we had several times we've done cruises down the Morris River. Everybody enjoyed it. Again, with the family. We've done the Science History Museum. We did a private tour of the Science History Museum. I guess it was maybe 3-4 years ago or so. How many people ever heard of it? Very few. And yet it's supported by little companies like, DuPont and things like that. And it's over about 2 blocks down from Independence Hall. And they invited us to come and do another tour. It's an incredible building, an incredible place. And I would suggest that if you have nothing else to do, enjoy a trip, see something, expand your horizons. And the Jewish Museum was a place that we were at, oh my gosh, must be close to 10 years ago, Rich? And there's going to be another tour, and we want to call another Kaplan up. Barney, if you could speak for a moment. He's doing something to make it even easier for our group to participate in a tour of the Jewish Museum. And I believe the date is October, something, same thing, another month.
Oh, yeah. All right. How do I look there? Make me look there. Yeah, so I've been mentioning this, but it's actually going to happen. Amy and I are renting out the Jewish Museum in Philadelphia for the day, October 23rd. We're going to be running buses from the JCC. As of now, we're going to have 4 buses going on a shuttle, rotating shuttle, and we will reserve a bus for you guys. All you have to do is promise that you will fill the bus. So we need somebody from South Jersey Men's Club to kind of be in charge of your organization, get people signed up, and it will be free. If for some reason you can't make it on the bus, you can go with your friends and your family anytime throughout the day. All you have to do is say, Amy sent me. Or you're from South Jersey, and they'll let you in. It'll be free all day. So I'll let the president make the designation as who will be the honorable chairman of this event. But we really would like to see a full bus going on October 23rd. Hope to see you then.
I also want to do one shout out our monthly general meetings are always recorded, and they're put on our website and on YouTube, and really a lot of good meetings that you can see in our library. And that's all due to our help from Dave Neidorf over here. Let's give a shout out to Dave. Thank you. Okay. And Mike? Okay.
We had something donated by one of our former members who was moving completely out of the area. And I mentioned it to our keynote speaker today, Nelson Mellitz. And he said, I know what we can do with that. But let me show it to you first. Now he'll tell you what we're going to do with this and how it's going to be arranged. And we have done, the men's club, so many things like this to impact on the community, not just the Jewish community, but on and on and on. And the big donation we made to the Jewish Federation's emergency COVID fund, and on and on and on. But I think the point's been well made. Look, anybody can sit back and write a check. And most of the people here have done that multiple times. But there's a completely different level of satisfaction to actually do something to help people. When we have our meetings, we got doctors and lawyers and engineers and salesmen and people that did this and that, doing menial little jobs. It's a way of giving back. When we're doing work at the food pantry, what do? Food comes in, we have to help make bags to go out to people who don't have the means to get their own food. And again, it's that level of people who are going in there and doing this manual labor. Next week, for instance, they're closing one of the pantries from the Jewish Family Service in not Merchantville, where is it? Maple Shade, thanks Ed. And we're the ones that are going to go there, take apart the shelves, probably shelves that we paid for, by the way, and get rid of the food that has to be done. And again, this hands-on thing, look, if you're one of these people who don't have things to do anymore, and basically when you're retired after a busy life, what happens is you slow down, become less efficient. You got to make sure that you do things to keep this from slowing down too. Jump in and help with the men's club. You don't have to do a lot, because any little thing you do makes it easier for guys who are doing a lot. I really appreciate that. Okay, the next part is a little bit, we saw this, a little bit about Israel. We did have a couples tour of Israel. What year was that? 2015. That's right. How many people went? Okay. And it was so good, they still get together periodically. But there's going to be another opportunity, and that will be an Israel trip that we're doing in conjunction with the Jewish war vets. And Nelson will speak to that in a few moments, and it's in April of next year. And we're going to do it in conjunction with something called Volunteers for Israel, which is also in Israel called Sarel. And that's where you work as a volunteer on an army base. How many people have heard of that? How many people have done it? It's amazing. You see the real Israel. You're not seeing the... Look, there's people, I've heard people say, I've been to Israel 35 times. Everybody speaks English. Translation. Everybody they see is paid to make the tourists feel comfortable. You want to see the real Israel, you do something like Sarel. And what do? You're taking the place of a reservist. Could be something as simple as packing medical supplies. Several of us went in 2018 and did work on the medical supply base. And it was extremely rewarding. And Nelson might be able to mention something about that also. And on that final note, and look, do plan on it. Do plan on it, because it's almost life-changing if you haven't been there. And the tour is one thing, the volunteer is another thing, and we can do both together on this one if you so choose. Thank you for your attention. Oh, Nelson will mention that. Nothing. No. Let me get back here so my back's not to everybody. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Rich. Thank you all for being here. Looking at this Hanukkah menorah, whatever you want to call it, reminds me of when I went to Baghdad in 2005, 2006. Somebody in this room convinced me to carry a menorah with me in my bag, Mike Perloff. What I didn't realize at that time is I had to go through a whole series of security checks, including in Jordan, in Iraq, and some other locations. And every time I opened my bag so they could check through that, they saw the Hanukkah, the menorah. Mike Perloff made arrangements so that we could have a Hanukkah for Hanukkah in Baghdad at the U.S. Embassy in December 2005. We had 150 people show up for that. Not all Jewish, because the word got out that we had wine. Yeah. No. And we didn't restrict anybody. Okay. But even the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Iraq showed up, Calazard, who later became the UN ambassador here for the United States. And it was a fantastic time. The place was full. And I knew the U.S. ambassador was going to show up because you had the security guards there that afternoon at the chapel with their dogs, looking around, checking out. That Hanukkah is now in my house. What happened is when they closed down the embassy at that part, it was really Saddam Hussein's palace, and moved over to the bigger embassy, the army decided to retire everything that was in the chapel. Christian, Jewish, Protestant, everything. And somebody's mother, who had a young lady was over there cleaning out the closets, called me and said, "Would you like it?" She sent it back to me. One day I'll bring that to one of our meetings so you have an opportunity to see it. Not as big as this one. This one. I am making arrangements with the Joint Base, McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst, that we have a ceremony where we give this to the Joint Base. A little history real fast on that. There was a Protestant chaplain at the Joint Base who thought he'd eliminate some of the Jewish things and the Muslims things in the chapel. Before I was notified of that, or anybody else from the Jewish war veterans or the Muslims, he threw a lot of our stuff out. Literally, he's fired. He was forced to resign because the Jewish war veterans reported him to the base commander, who was really on our side with this and didn't know anything about it. Again, I'll try to arrange a ceremony as soon as possible. Everybody will be invited to the base. There are some restrictions on the base right now, so I don't know when we can have that ceremony because COVID has caused restrictions as well as security. Now, let me digress a little bit. This area, New Jersey, where that Joint Base is located, is a central logistics place to get our supplies over to Poland and later to the Ukraine. So they have restrictions more than I've ever seen before, even after 9/11. More restrictions. But just think of this. South Jersey Men's Club and the Jewish War Veterans are donating a menorah that's going to be there for many, many years. It'll be in a prominent place, beautiful chapel, and you'll have a chance to see it sometime in the near future. Again, a round of applause for everybody. Arrange that. Phil, Mike, everybody that's there. I think it was advertised that I'm going to speak about the current state of the U.S. military. Yes, I am. But I'm going to add a little bit more to that. Okay, some of you know I'll be the national commander for the Jewish War Veterans in about a week and a half. I'll be elected to that position. Thank you. And I like to say Debbie's going to be the first lady. So, hey, congratulations, Debbie. She doesn't know what she's getting into, but she'll find out quickly. Okay, I still have to be elected, but nobody's running against me, so I think it's pretty sure I'll be elected. Yeah. Yeah, smart buddies on me. Okay. The Jewish War Veterans, I have to talk about them. I'll talk a bit about the U.S. military current state. I'll talk about Ukraine, and I'll talk about Taiwan, which is in the news the last few days. Jewish War Veterans was formed in 1896. It was formed by 32 Jewish veterans, primarily from the Civil War, because of anti-Semitism. Of course, anti-Semitism. They said Jews did not fight in the Civil Wars or any other wars. Of course, that's not true.
We fought in a higher percentage than our population in the United States in every war, including the current wars, according to the numbers that we have. We have a large contingent of Jewish people in the U.S. military and their families. The Jewish war veterans under my administration, starting in a week and a half, is going to concentrate on fighting anti-Semitism. We're going back to our roots. We need to be extremely active, more so than we ever been in the past, and that's every organization, Hadassah, Na'amad, all the organizations. We are teaming with all of them. We're even trying to team with the Jewish Museum in Philadelphia to set up exhibits and actually have discussions on the web with them. So stand by and you'll see a lot of actions taking place. One thing we're going to be doing in this community, and I haven't really covered this with Phil yet, but I've covered it with a few members, is 9/11's coming up. I don't need that yet. What I'm proposing, and we started talking to some people about this, is before 9/11, we need the South Jersey Men's Club and every other organization that's Jewish that we could get together with to put 3,000 flags in front of the JCC. Patriotism. We need to show the Jewish and the non-Jewish community that we're patriotic. We're working our way through the JCC and the Federation, but we need the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Hadassah, all those Jewish organizations to help us put 3,000 flags. Why 3,000 flags? Because if you remember, there was 2,753 people killed on 9/11 at the World Trade Center, 184 at the Pentagon, and 40 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Close to 3,000. JWV has the flags because we flag graves every year, a couple times a year, and then we have to take down the flags because they have to cut the grass and the cemeteries want us to take it down at Crescent, Locustwood, and etc. This is something we need everybody to participate in. I'm kind of used to the planes, but now you have a truck going by, a little strange. It's a project we can work on together, and I see the South Jersey Men's Club, who has a lot of young people compared to JWV in some cases, actually helping us out to put those flags in place. But then again, think about this. It's an opportunity to show our patriotism together, and we are a patriotic group. U.S. military. Let me ask the question to everybody, and please yell out the answer. Who's our enemy? Yeah, seems like everyone. Who's our number one enemy? Russia and China. In which order? Take your pick. Yeah, the answer is probably everybody. Almost everybody, it seems like. We do have a lot of friends. Up until February 24th, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I'd have to say Russia was considered our number one enemy. Now I'm going to say China. What's our percentage of the gross domestic product in the United States that we spend on the military? As a percentage again. Anybody have any guess? 25, 50%. 8, 4, 1%. Any other answers? For the last few years, it's been less than 3%. The number, hopefully in the current budget, which has not been passed for 2023, which starts October, it'll be approximately $880 billion with a B. Consider how much money we have given, hopefully given, to the Ukraine so far. Billions and billions. How much have we given in other programs? Billions and billions. That's a drop in the bucket. Over the last approximately 12 to 15 years, our defense budget has dropped down on an average of 10% each year. Equivalent drop in number of people that we've had in the military. The number of people we currently have in the military on active duty is 1.4 million, and another 800,000 in the reserves and National Guard. Compare this with World War II, where we had 16 million in the military, including National Guard and reserves. 16 million compared to 1.4 plus 800,000, 2.2. I know we can't compare ourselves to a worldwide war, but we should think about it that way. The numbers have been dropping down tremendously. How many troops do we now have in the Ukraine area? In Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Germany, France, Italy. How many troops do we have now? We have about 115,000. How many did we have before February? Closer to 50,000, like you were saying. Increase, where those troops come from? Other vital locations that we have throughout the world that we need to defend. How many operations do we have going on? Combat operations, where people are being shot at or shooting at people throughout the world. 150, according to the Department of Defense. I'm giving you doom and gloom, but it's not all that bad. The United States still has the most powerful military in the world. We have the best troops in the world, best trained, best capable troops in the world. But how many times have they been deployed to Afghanistan when we were in Afghanistan? How many times are they still being deployed to Iraq? Some as many as 10 or 15 times. If you go into the military now, you know you're going to be deployed to a combat area. What percentage of our troops are women? If you look at the Air Force, 30% is the correct answer. If you look at the total number of troops, it's 18% and increasing. Are women restricted from taking any job in the military? That's a leading question. No, not a single job. Women are pilots, submarine commanders, everything you can think of. They're in those little tunnels, little caves they have out in the Wyoming and Minnesota and elsewhere where we have our missiles. Missiles might be a little bit old, but they're being updated. But the women are in command of that. Everything women are in command of, where they're working. It's something that we should have done many years ago, and we didn't, but we are now. Women can take every job. In the military academies, women are treated equally. Something we started in 1976. First women graduated in 1980. And we have 4-star generals and 4-star admirals now. It's taken a long time, but they're there, and they should be there. And we should have done it a long time ago. Yeah. Any questions? Ukraine. Does anybody want to hear about the Ukraine? Yeah. Let me give you a disclaimer. Partners in a company that is furnishing equipment and armaments to the Ukraine through Poland. I'm working with different governments, and I'll be frank with you, I'm working with the Indian government, the Polish government, the Ukrainian government, and of course the U.S. government. We currently have promised the Ukrainians a whole bunch of missile defense equipment. And you might have heard about that several weeks ago, several months ago. It hasn't gotten there yet. It may take 3 more months to get it over there. The Russians have been attacking the Ukraine since February 24th. The Russians have lost approximately 38,000 of their troops, over 1,800 of their tanks, 220 of their aircraft. But the Ukrainians have lost at least, and they're not telling us, and I can't find it in the CIA data, at least 20,000 of their troops. They really had no tanks. Only about 20 of their aircraft, because they're not using their aircraft very frequently. And their civilian count, they estimate the Ukrainians about 20,000 civilians that have been bombed. Let me digress a second. When Israel is involved in a war with the Palestinian Arabs, I don't care where it is, they try to avoid killing civilians, don't they? But you hear on the news all the time about this poor Gaza child, and I agree it is a poor, tragic situation, was killed, or this adult was killed. But do you hear much about the civilians other than a short article on CNN, maybe NBC, CBS, talking about, oh, this apartment building was bombed, another 20 Ukrainians killed? There's a really difference in how it's reported. That 20,000 number of civilians killed, I think it's too small. I think a larger number of civilians have been killed. And in addition to that, there's over 5.5 million Ukrainians have fled the country. Most of them are located in Poland. We need to support the Ukrainians in Poland, as well as the Polish government. And we are doing that, but are we getting the equipment over there, the supplies, etc.? Not fast enough. I've been told by my logistics person actually in Poland at one of the major airports that everything's sitting on the ground and they're still waiting for the Ukrainians to take it over. Now, I'm often asked the question, how many U.S. troops do we have in the Ukraine? Anybody have a number? 0, 0, 0. Do you think that's true, that we have 0 troops in the Ukraine? Even if the president says there's not even Marines guarding the U.S. Embassy in the Ukraine. Do you believe that? I'm sorry, I trust the president to a great extent. Of course we have troops. The answer is, from what I keep, no, 20,000 is a little bit too high. The answer is we have the Special Forces units in there, and we have some logistics people in there, all not in uniform, and there is an estimate of about 5,000 troops there. So you're close. Any questions about the Ukraine so far? No. Well, you're close. The question is, how many Russian generals do you kill so far? Let me back up before I try to answer that question. I'm getting this information out of the CIA open data, by the way. When you're in a war, you target the generals and the colonels, especially in a Russian military. The enlisted people are not always volunteers. In fact, most of them are not volunteers. They have subscription. They have a requirement to actually serve a certain amount of time. I don't remember, a year or 18 months. And they're the cannon fire also. The estimate is 18 Russian generals have been killed. You target them, and then there's no leaders. The latest Russian general that's in charge, they brought him back from retirement. The guy couldn't even fit in his uniform. He's so fat. Let's have him run a mile and a half or 2 miles and see what happens. He'll probably die from a heart attack. He actually, oh, good question. He was the one that was in Syria that did all the killings of the Syrian civilians. And then he retired them. What's that? Exactly, the butcher of Syria. That's the Russian approach to war ever since I've studied it. And I've studied it all the way back to the First World War. I had to. Because before you can become a colonel, you have to go through certain courses, Air War College, and etc. That's the way the Russians fight. And they don't care. You think Putin's going to stop until he gets his objective? What's the objective now? It's been reduced. The Donbas, the southern part. Why are the Russians actually in the Ukraine? For what commodity are they in the Ukraine? It's not for grain, by the way. Don't believe that. They have enough grain. What's the 2 products they're in the Ukraine for? Oil and gas. They were afraid the Ukrainians were going to work with the NATO countries, the European countries, and do their own sales of gas, because the Ukrainians have, in the southern part especially, a tremendous gas reserve, as well as oil. And they were forming lines going directly to Europe. That's the one reason Putin didn't want to do that. What's the one product that Russia has that they export above all else? Oil. They don't want to lose that. And Putin doesn't care how many of his own people or other people he kills. We know that. Again, that's the way the Russians fight. Yes. I'll get to the Israel trip. Thank you. When does the war end between the Ukraine and Russia? What has to happen for it to end? Well, the real answer is that Putin's thrown out of office. That's not going to happen. The answer is Putin's going to stop pretty soon, within the next couple months, according to the experts, because he's going to take over the southern part of the Ukraine and says it's part of Russia. That's not going to stop the war completely, because remember, they've been fighting since 2014, when Putin took other parts of the Ukraine. Another few years, it's going to happen again. And he's going to replenish his troops. The rockets he's using now are Cold War rockets. He's run out of the supplies of the rockets, the modern rockets. So it's a situation where he will have to stop pretty soon. And pretty soon also, the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, the sisters, the wives, the husbands of these people being killed, the 38,000, are going to start complaining even if they go to jail. I bet it's happening anyhow. I bet it's happening now. We just can't hear about it because the news is controlled. Go ahead, please. I don't know what the truth is on that. I can't believe that the families would let their bodies stay in the Ukraine. or elsewhere. No. You know, we'll find out in the long run. I've heard that story too. What he just said is, I thought the Russians arranged not to send the bodies home, which means mass graves. I don't think that happens. No, that's possible too. They could be incinerated. I don't know. That's an area that is still going to have to be resolved. The newspapers in Russia will eventually have to report these deaths and some of the truth. Not all the truth. They never will until Putin's out of office. Please go ahead.
The Russian government simply said that you either don't know or don't fight. There was absolutely no information coming from the front back to the very population that was before the scientists released some
I agree. It will create questions. If you were a parent of a child that's missing for months and months, don't hear anything from that child, you're actually going to inquire. You will. Doesn't matter if you go to jail or not. One more question, then I'll go on, and then get as many questions as you want. Well, the Germans cut off that contract with the Russians to get the gas from Russia directly. If you're talking about from Israel to Europe, I don't know what's happening. Well, I do know some, but I'm not going to comment on that. That gets into politics. I will not talk about the Biden administration to everybody here because I have to be careful for my position with the Jewish war veterans, where we have to be unpolitical. But you have to think about it yourself. Oil, gas, primary reason for the war that Putin's putting in place. He wants to take over war and control. Let's go on to China real fast because I think Taiwan's in the news quite a bit and what Pelosi's doing. China, again, I'll repeat this. China's the #1 military in the world behind the United States. China actually has more troops than we do. They have about 4.5 million troops, including their reserve and their so-called National Guard, which is really the Republican Guard equivalent to what the Iraqis have. China has put an agreement in place with the Iranians. They put an agreement in place with the Russians about what they'll do, when they'll do it, against the United States and the rest of the world. China has recently put their 15th aircraft carrier, which is equivalent in many ways to our 11 aircraft carriers, to the sea. It's in its test phase right now. You have to remember, South China Sea, all around the world, 75% of the world is water. It expands their ability to go anywhere in the world with aircraft carriers. China is not stopping building up. They're not stopping their threats against the United States, against the rest of the world. Even in Israel, and Eli might attest to this, they actually have financed the port in Haifa, I believe it is, and the light speed line going in certain areas. I think it's Jerusalem. I'm not sure anymore. Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. They are putting their money where their mouth is. In one of my projects in Uganda, they offered to finance it for us. We refused that financing. The Russians offered to finance it. We refused that. And now we have Israeli funding. They've come to us. So there's a fight going on about what they do what, and the thing I'm saying is, the Chinese are expanding wherever they possibly can, including the United States. Our #1 enemy, again, I'll repeat this one more time, is China. Russia's military is devastated. They still have nuclear weapons, which worries the heck out of me. And will they use those nuclear weapons in the Ukraine? Nobody knows, and how do you prepare for that? And if they use it, what do we do? I think we have to take action. China, as we speak, not only has that fleet available, They also has troops on the coast, about 400 miles away from Taiwan. They have threatened Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, aircraft with shooting it down. And keep in mind, the Speaker's aircraft always flies with F-35, F-15s, F-16 escorts. So they can try to shoot down those aircraft too. What do? I think we have to take a very strong position. If Nancy Pelosi, with the President's permission, wants to actually go to Taiwan and visit the way she said she wants to, she should be able to. And she should go immediately. What bothers me about this is, and this is not political, but it's a fact, the President of the United States has asked Nancy Pelosi not to go to Taiwan after she announced her trip. That's backing down because of the Chinese. That bothers me. It really does. Chinese don't tell us what to do, especially not the third most powerful person in the United States, the Speaker of the House. But what do we do in this situation? If a missile is fired near Speaker Pelosi's aircraft as a warning, that's what the Russians usually do in Syria against Israel. Why can't the Chinese do it? What do you think we should do? How do we retaliate? Any other answers? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Any other answers? Okay, let me ask the question a little bit different way. And we can't declare war. You just don't declare war. You have some actions against the country, against their military. What if China decides, as a provocation of Nancy Pelosi and other things happening in Taiwan, to invade Taiwan? Can we stop them? No, we can't. Every scenario that the military has done over the last 10 years, including one just a few months ago, shows that the Chinese will take over Taiwan. Taiwan is 24 million people, F-35s and heavily armed military. They will put up a resistance. But when you have 1 million troops coming at you with a lot of advanced aircraft and ships I'd like to shoot down, I'd like to destroy, but it would be difficult. The only way we could stop them is with nuclear weapons. So what do we have to do? We have to... Well, we're sitting here. We're not going to be directly involved in the war. If we were to use nuclear weapons, they will use nuclear weapons. People will be killed in such large numbers that will make the millions and millions and millions of people killed in the Second World War look like a minor skirmish. Economically, good answer, Marty. We could also increase our military, which has been decreasing at a 10% rate on average for the last 15 years and longer. We have to make sure that the 8.8% increase that they're claiming they're giving us, which is behind even inflation, which is more than 9%, is increased substantially. This equipment that we're giving to the Ukraine is coming out of our military. It needs to be refurnished, re-put in place. It takes years to do that. The supply lines have gone down. So what I'm asking now is that when you contact your congresspeople and senators, you tell them, build up our military so they can actually defend us. Any questions? Please. The Biden administration has been very smart, and they've been gradually building up our manufacturing capabilities. Chips, they're trying to bring that back in the United States. I can't understand why any congressperson or senator would be against getting chips back in the United States instead of being put together or built in Taiwan. Have a manufacturing facility in the United States. There's incentives and bills going through the Congress right now that we should go and put in place. Shirts, hats, everything. That's not the big things. The big things is the missile systems, the ships. Did you know we have 2 nuclear submarines being built in the Philadelphia Navy Yard? Small ones, 2 of them being built in the Philadelphia Navy Yard. Research ones. It is. That's. We're just saying. You think the yard was not in business? It is in business. There's certain sections of the yard you can't get to, even when you get on base. We have some steps in place that we're gradually taking, but we need to expand those steps. We will not be the number one military or economic power in the world unless we take these steps to build up our military and economic capability. It's just, no. Oh, that's a good question. Bring back the draft was just said. I'm against that. I do not want somebody sitting next to me that doesn't want to be there. If I'm in a combat, if I'm in a foxhole or elsewhere. Yeah, that's true. That's true. In Vietnam, there were 60% draftees toward the end of the war. Okay, the answer is we need to have highly trained people. Okay, let me digress a second, and then I'll shut down, because we have the greatest country in the world, and we could do everything we want to survive and prosper, especially as Jewish people, because the Jews have been in this country for hundreds and hundreds of years. We think about 350 years, the last number I saw. Probably they came over with Columbus, from some people's knowledge. Yeah, some people think that Columbus was Jewish. That was just said. The answer is, again, we can't even fill the slots in the military. Before this year, only 27% of the people that tried to enlist in the military were accepted. They either had criminal records, drug records. They were not high school graduates. You have to be a high school graduate to be in the military. I don't want somebody handling a weapon system that doesn't have a high school degree, at least. It can be trained. Now the number is even lower, and it's dropping quickly. They will not fill all the slots in the military. I know some people say, send your kid over to Israel and be in the IDF. Well, I don't have any problems with that at all, but this is our country. This is the United States. Go ahead. Eli. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of drones going up in the air, and they're going to have so many ammunition and those cluster bombs that they're going to eliminate so many soldiers on foot. It's going to be amazing. It's not going to be used on too many soldiers.
What Eli's talking about is the next step in the technology. We have a Generation 6 aircraft, the F-35. They're not going to be obsolete, but the next step is actually, like Eli's saying, drone technology. Israel, when you have all these little rockets and missiles being sent over against Israel from Gaza, you can't shoot them down with a $50,000 Iron Dome missiles. That's ridiculous, or $100,000, even though they have 3 layers. Use drones, or the other step that they'll talk about very shortly is electronics, actually sending over electronic systems that shoots down the missiles, the rockets coming over. And that's what we have. Iron Dome is obsolete. Iron Dome takes care of a couple... I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Laser, yeah. Yeah, my company sells it if you... Yeah. Exactly. Iron Dome... You turn on a little switch, you have the radar that tracks the, usually drones. It's not the missiles, larger ones, but it will be very shortly. My company sells that if anybody's interested. Okay. Real fast, only a couple more questions. Nobody left? Or maybe one person left? Okay. Well, I got you. Please. Yes. Let me restate. There are Chinese in our country who are being tracked by the CIA in the country. They're not supposed to, but they are, and the FBI, who they're supposed to be tracking them. And they're being monitored to find out what they're doing, because I suspect they're doing things they're not supposed to. And the answer is yes, they have cells in the United States. They're tracking different activities. I'm not privileged to that data, but believe it that the FBI and all the other agencies like NSA are doing their job. Maybe not as good as they should, but they will be increasing their activity. Any you have a question?
Yes, economically, you mentioned that. Yeah, we buy a lot from China. Why would they have to be risking an economic disaster by taking us on?
Yeah. Okay, the prediction from different think tanks is that China, because their population is going to start shrinking soon, They will not have the capability to do manufacturing by 2014. 2040 rather, 2040. Because of that, they will be reducing in their economic capabilities and they will be falling apart. That's a long time off. I don't know how many of us will be around and interested at that point. Okay, but we're risking losing some manufacturing capability by cutting off China. I think it's a risk we should be taking now instead of waiting until 5 years or 10 years. Anybody else? I want to go around and answer any other questions or have some comments. Go ahead, Lou.
I'm talking about the cybersecurity war that unknown countries started against our country within the last decade. We've lost gas line transmission. We've lost hydroelectric plant activity throughout the Tennessee Valley area. We had that enormous East Coast electrical shutdown about 8 or 9 years ago. Just like the World Trade Center had test runs to how you get in, how you gain access, and how you break down little nodes and cells of activity. Some of the newsletters I get, and I'm not a former officer in any military anything, but just friendly with people who have been paid militia over the years. We've been already battered by cyber attacks. I don't know which countries. Yet I don't hear or read anything about our country creating cyber attacks in any of our number 1 or 2 or 3 top opponents worldwide.
Thank you, Lee. Part of the question should be, have we been attacked by the Russians because we're supporting the Ukrainians? We have had some minor attacks. Are we putting together a good defense? Yes, we are. Do we have cyber commands? We have them in all the services, and it's combined under Space Force. The answer is I have confidence in our country to actually defend against cyber attacks. I do not have confidence in the electric power system to remain stable if we were attacked because it's only gradually being improved. But I would not worry about that area right now. We have a lot of friends also helping us in that area. Any other questions or comments? Okay, final thing. I want to talk about the Israeli trip. You do not have to be a veteran to attend or participate in this trip. Yes, I am leading the trip. I want to have as many South Jersey Men's Club members and spouses, family members, participating in this trip. It's fantastic. We originally had, as of a month and a half ago, Bennett was actually going to come and speak to us. Of course, he's out, so we don't know what's happening in that case. We have contacts with admirals, generals, from the Israeli Defense Forces. They will be speaking to us. We'll be going to their headquarters. In addition to that, you'll see things you don't see on any other trip because we have contacts. Some of these sheets have itineraries on them. If you don't have itineraries, send me an email and I'll send it out to you. There's a pile here with itineraries. And I think Debbie has some too. I left this a pile. What you do in that package. So again, I encourage you to attend. It's different than anything you attended with your synagogue. And it's the 75th anniversary of Israel next year. We timed it so we'll be actually in several ceremonies. Police officers that have been killed from IDF, we'll be recognizing them, as well as when the Israelis actually stop all their car traffic and everything else on the road, we will be in a special ceremony with the Israeli government, all of us. Please go ahead. I can't hear with that thing. If you go with El Al, it's $4,400. If you go with Turkish Airlines, it's $4,100. If you go your own airlines, it's whatever it is. The only thing we're requesting the first night when we're supposed to meet in the hotel, just be there. The VFI, the Volunteers for Israel trip, will be the week before that. Not on Passover. I know some people have asked that. We're not going to do Passover stuff like that. But it'll be before that. It'll be on the medical base near Tel Aviv. And it's a fantastic experience. Like Mike Perloff said a few minutes ago, he and I went. He says, I snore. I say he snores, by the way. But I do snore. Please. Yeah, please. Debbie has some more of the copies if you need it. It's a fantastic experience. But instead of just going there, paying money and seeing things, you have an opportunity to help the IDF. I encourage you to go again. It's not until April, except sign up as soon as possible, and I could give you information about it. I'm looking forward to a good turnout. Thank you all for allowing me to speak, and it's not doom and gloom. We have the greatest country in the world. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you.
Real quick, too, I want to thank everyone for coming. I have a couple of trash bags if we can clean off the tables so that help the groundskeepers here. Also, there is still plenty of food left, so we have aluminum foil back there. Please, if you're welcome to want anything, wrap it up, take it home as much as you can. And Phil, did you want to say anything else? We're good? All right, we're good. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you.